Hello, 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 hello. Can everyone hear me? If you're out there, let me know if you can hear me. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. I am back. I am back. I am back. This is Save to Sane, and I am Willie Cartwright. This is the Save to Sane podcast, and I am back. It's been a while. It's been a few weeks, probably over a month. Those of you who are out there, please let me know that you are listening. Send me a message on the text, the message board. I see Taisha has her notifications set. But let me know that you are out there by saying hello to me. Those of you, I certainly appreciate those of you who have joined me, who will be joining me, and who will eventually see this podcast at a later date. You're in the chat, but cooking dinner. Taisha is with us today. So, what a wonderful way to start off my first podcast of the year by having Taisha in the chats with us. Um, so let me go there first, as I always do. Let me say thank you to first my wife, who is my number one supporter. She is my everything, and she's part of the reason why I'm doing this. So I'm always appreciative to her, my wife Salima. And secondly, is Taisha Essick, who is have been a tremendous support. As a matter of fact, y'all, Taisha hit me up on, I think it was Facebook Messenger, and asked me if I wanted her to do a couple of things to enhance this podcast, which boy, we know it needs to be enhanced more so than just me talking. We need some other stuff going on. And so I told her absolutely, I appreciate it. So Taisha, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I am gonna take a look at the things that you wanted me to take a look at as soon as I get some downtime. School's just started back, but I'm certainly gonna look at that. And I am so appreciative of you asking to assist me with that and being willing to help me. So I am so happy for that and so thankful. So thank you so much. So again, we're very appreciative of Taisha and everything that she's doing and clearly continues to do to enhance this podcast, this show. So thank you so much. She says she take a break and join you live midway through. Okay, appreciate it. She's going to join us live. So we will be good. Greetings to Mrs. I would absolutely tell her, Taisha, we still waiting for you in the midst to come up here now. I know you got the baby, but waiting for you guys to make that drive up here so we can do some, I think it was an Indian or Ethiopian food. So we'll get that done. But yes, so thank all of you. Those of you who are out there, say hello, say hello. I know it's been a while, so it may take us a couple of weeks to get our regular audience back, but I am here today. You'll be here soon. Thank you. Appreciate that. That'll be awesome. Awesome, Taisha. Um, so I want to just kind of ease us into this year. I want to say thank you for all of you who are still with us, who will join us later. I needed a much needed break. I had a break from school, and so I just decided to take a break from everything and just give myself a break, which it really ended up not being that much of a break because I'm in the process of writing my graduate thesis. And so I had to do a lot of work on that as well. And as I may have shared with some of you all at some point, I'm looking to pursue a PhD. So I had to spend my holiday break submitting PhD applications. Um, yeah, PhD applications, and it was several schools that I applied to. So hopefully, we'll hear some positive news from some of them in the next month or so, month to 2 months. So yeah, so I spent my so-called holidays. I know someone who refers to them as holidays, the holidays, uh, doing work. So that's fine. But I'm glad to be back. Glad that we're on here today. Just wanted to touch on something. So I was thinking, so what would be a good way of bringing us back in? And so I thought about, first of all, I want to make sure that we're clear as to what the purpose of this platform is. And for me, this platform is multi-purpose. But first of all, I wanted to create a safe space, a space that those of us who are contemplating leaving their faith, who have questions about their faith, who have left their faith, who maybe even still within their faith, but have questions and they want to go to a place, a non-biased, unbiased platform and space to talk about the concerns that they may have. Or those of you who are saying, I am rooted in my faith and my belief system, but I acknowledge that there are some issues and there are some problems, like in any other system, whether it be an organization, whether it be a family, whatever it is. And I want to figure out ways that I can improve upon at least how I practice that particular faith and how I can do a better job with servicing other people and maybe making the faith more inviting to others, or at least from the standpoint of having the faith to do the things that it needs to do from a collective to help the collective of us. And so that's part of why we do this. Secondly, I do this platform because it's personal to me. Started in 2015 after spending 40 years or so in Christianity or as a Christian. I made the decision to leave organized religion altogether, including Christianity. I am no longer a believer, or started in 2015. I no longer call myself a believer or a Christian. I finally was able to be honest with myself. It started with many years ago with questioning many of the things that I knew about Christianity, that I had learned about Christianity, that I had heard about Christianity. But it took me some time to get up the courage to sort of challenge those things and do the research myself and be all right with the outcome or wherever it led me. So in 2015, um, my wife and I both kind of, at the same time. At some point, I might tell you guys a story. I've told it several times, but my wife and I sort of came to the same conclusion at the same time, that organized religion was no longer for us, and so we walked away. My wife and I sort of took different paths. I was determined and still is determined, and still am determined that I am not going to be part of any other organized religious group or affiliation or denomination. Um, what's up, Papa Lance? Glad to have you. Glad to have you. And so I made that decision not to do that. My wife has since embarked upon Buddhism, which fits her personality, fits her well. It has worked wonders for her, and so I think that is absolutely awesome. But that's where her path led her, and so my path has led me to where I am now, which is basically a seeker and a learner of everything related to religion, to the point that I am one semester away from completing my graduate degree in religious studies, and as I mentioned before, looking to pursue a PhD in religious studies. Um, Teo Brown, what's going on? Glad to have you with us. Happy New Year to all of you. However we take it. Yeah, and so part of that, I talked about earlier part why this is important, this platform, and then why I'm doing it because it's personal to me. But I also looked around and discovered that there were many other people that was embarking on the same journey, and more importantly, there were people who looked like me. And those of you who are of a certain age, and even from a certain region in the country, I remember when I was young, I didn't know any black people that at a minimum questioned Christianity or religion. Um, I certainly didn't know anyone who had denounced Christianity or would openly say that they were not a Christian or a Muslim or whatever, or were not part of some kind of religious group. So as I embarked on this journey, I found that there were many people who looked like me that was embarking on the same journey or had embarked upon the same journey. However, many of those individuals were what we could call closeted, if we can borrow a term from the gay and lesbian community. They were closeted, meaning that they were not open in their disbelief for a variety of reasons. And all of those reasons made sense, perfectly good sense to them. Everything from I don't want to be alienated by my family. I don't want to risk losing a job. I don't want to have to explain this to my significant other. I just want to deal with the questions. I'm still trying to find answers. I'm not sure about it. Whatever the reason may be, many of those individuals were still closeted. I, however, given my personality as being very a personality and a extreme extrovert, and thankfully my socioeconomic position afforded me afforded me to be in a position where I did not have to be closeted about my disbelief. Now, that did not come with a lot of push. It came with a lot of pushback. I literally lost friends that who I had been friends with, or at least thought I was friends with, or had been knowing for the better part of 40 years, certainly 30 years, and like I said, even 40 years in some cases. So people I had been friends with since childhood. When I became public about my denunciation of Christianity and the fact that I was leaving organized religions, and particularly Christianity, I lost a lot of friends. People who not want to have anything to do with me, don't want to talk to me. Again, as we go along, maybe not today, but in the future, I'll tell more of these stories. But my mother, who at the time was a minister before she passed away, had said some really hurtful things, not directly to me because she would never do that, but because she sort of revered me, fun, weird as it is. But she said those things to my sister about me, and it got back to me. But yeah, so this space that we have today, that is the space that all of us cultivate and all of us are a part of, is a safe space for us to have these conversations. Those of us, everything from I will always be a Christian, but I got questions about A, B, C, and D. To those of us who completely denounce the religion, people who are now agnostic or atheists or whatever it is, and everything in between. This is your space. This is why we do this. Let me say hello to some of the people who have joined. I'm so happy. Melanated phenomenon. How are you, Texas Goddess? What's going on? Two Brown again. I mean, Teo Brown again. Glad to have you. Papa Lance, glad to have you. You guys know how I do this. The topic for today, let me get the topic out so before we can get into it. But it is what's keeping Black people attached to Christianity. And those of you who never joined us or who will hear this later, um, I like to be very interactive with the comments, and so I may start talking, but then I may address one of the comments, or as you have seen me do, I will say hello to those who have joined us on this live view because I'm always appreciative of all of you for all of you being here. So that's kind of where we are. I wanted to get into it. And so I said I just sort of did that disclaimer because I was getting ready to read the rest of the comments. And if any of those comments were related to the topic, then I wanted to get right into it with those comments. And so let's see. Taylor Brown said, hey to Texas Goddess. Papa Lance, first comment related to the topic says, I verbally denounced JC. For those of you who don't know, it's Jesus Christ. Christianity and all religions about 5 years ago. I checked out about 7 years ago. Yeah, it was 2015 for me. I may have checked out mentally a little earlier than that, but funny part about it because when I met my wife, she had been Muslim and she was Christian at the time, but I was more concerned about telling her and how she would take it. So that probably took me a few months, even maybe a year before I came out and told her. But she was thinking exactly the same thing. So it's really weird. Yeah. So uh, uh, Papa Lance, how did that go with friends or people who have been knowing you for a while and family? And I don't know if you have a significant other and where that person stands on religion and faith. But I would love to have you share some comments about how that went. Melanated said, when I released myself from religion, I felt more free than a man being released from prison. Absolutely. I felt, I got my Sundays back. I got my Sundays back because I'm from Alabama and church on Sunday was all that we did. And so I grew up literally being in church from 9 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and sometimes even later. I mean, all day on Sundays, all day on Sundays. Wednesday night Bible studies. Sometimes we did some Saturday stuff and choir rehearsal and Bible school. I mean, everything. Revival, not just one revival, but every revival in the city. So yes, I was really churched out. But yeah, um, so let me catch up to these comments because I haven't even got to the part that I'm talking about yet. But I still appreciate the comments. Let's see, where are we here? Where did we stop? Oh yeah, I released myself. So Papa Lance says, aka Papa Soul Searcher, I changed my name and avatar. Oh, so you were Papa Soul Searcher. Okay, okay, got you. Okay, got it. Okay, we're good now. Okay. Taylor Brown said, I really got tired of hearing that God gets all the glory for the blessings that we have. There is no glory in pain. There is no glory in pain whatsoever. But we're going to talk about that too. We become that's become part of our DNA, especially as African Americans. Teo, Larry Smith, glad to have you, Larry. Larry said, I left Christianity nearly 20 years ago. I haven't looked back. Kudos to you, Larry. Teo Brown says the pandemic helped me make the change. How how so? I kind of have an idea, but I would love to hear how so, Teo. Pablo said, I lost my wife. Oh, sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. Let's see. Teo said 100% on target. Texas Goddess. Texas Goddess also said, so sorry, Lance. Okay. Condolences, Lance, Papa Lance. Yeah, absolutely. Condolences here. I don't ever want to have to experience that. Oh my God, I think that's horrific. Um, but as I was saying, so the question I asked, what's keeping us? We those of us that are on here making comments and engaging in this dialogue, and others who are listening, and others who will join and sort of feel the same way that we are somewhere sort of in the same boat that we're in. We're on this side now, and those of us who've been on the other side, sometimes we tend to look at the people on the other side who are still immersed in the faith, and be like, wow, so you can't see, you can't see what's going on. And I when I first left, that was something I would do, but I had to stop myself because for so many years, even before there were times and there were um, parts of Christianity that I was certainly blind to, that either I turned a deaf eye to. And if someone had been in my position, the position I'm in now, had been looking at me, they would say, why are you still part of this? And so, as opposed to doing that, I want to talk about some reasons that I think this is still going on. Um, and so the first reason that I thought about was just ignorance, not ignorance in the standpoint of, degrading ignorance, but ignorance and lack of knowledge. Those of us of a certain generation and even maybe younger, you grew up in a church, you grew up in an environment where the pastor or the Sunday school teacher or even your parents, they become the authority on religion. And everything that we learned from about religion, we learned from them. And parallel to that, we're taught not to question anything that these individuals are saying. So we have a ignorance, and in some cases a willful ignorance, to anything that goes against what we've been taught in religion or in a particular religion. And so that's the ignorance that I'm speaking of. The fact that we won't go out and read other things, and we won't learn about the history of Christianity, where it borrowed, quote unquote, borrowed almost everything from much older religions. And so all of these things that once we're on our journey, we start to learn about. Many people who are still a part of organized religion and Christianity in particular, they're not party to this knowledge, either because they don't want to, they haven't taken the opportunity to go look for it. They've been told, but they refuse to believe it or even hear about it. Which I know many people who I still associate with who flat out refuse to even hear the information, or they may hear the information and create or come up with all kind of excuses as to why they're right and the information is not right. And so Papa Lance said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back a second. Let's see what happened." Papa Lance, I'm gonna get to you in just a second, because as you said some interesting stuff here. Go back to the comments. So Tail Brown said, "I had time to search deeper by being locked inside my home." That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that in dealing with COVID, that happened to a lot of people, and I think also people, because they could not physically get to church, many of them started watching church services on TV, and then eventually that faded away. And then they realized that this belief system, this God and this church practice had no bearing on their life one way or the other. And for some of the research, and you guys have heard about the research that I'm doing, but for some of the research that I'm doing, along with my professor and the research that I'm working on and presented, one of the things we talk about in African American community is even before we get to African Americans who, like us, who say, like some of us who may say, I don't believe in a God. There's not enough evidence that this God, at least the God of Christianity, exists. There's a point where religion, belief in God, Christianity becomes irrelevant for us, meaning that it has no bearing on our life whatsoever. And one of the things that I'm arguing in my research is that you have Christians, not Christians, you have Black people who may say, randomly, if you ask them, do you believe in God? They will say yes, for a variety of reasons, even if they really don't. But let's say for a variety of reasons, they may truly believe. They may not know how not to believe. That question may have never been asked to them before. It's culturally acceptable. It's cool, or they're afraid to not to say that they don't believe. But if we do the study and we track them for a week, for a month, for 6 months, and we watch their daily activities, what we will see is that many of these same individuals who say, yeah, I believe in God, they will do nothing. None of their practices has anything to do with God or Christianity. For example, they don't pray, they don't read the Bible, they don't say their grace anymore. They don't acknowledge God for anything. Everything that happens in their life, rightfully so, is because of the work that they put in. They take accountability and responsibility for the bad things that happen in their life. And so, if you follow these individuals, you will see that from a standpoint of how they conduct their everyday life, it is godless. And so, therefore, God, even though they proclaim that they believe in a God, judging by their actions, God and Christianity is largely irrelevant to those individuals. Um, and so we were talking about, back to what I was saying about, I wanted to look at some more of the comments. Let's see. So right after that, Papa Lance said, well, what I should have said was, I lost my marriage once I denounced Jesus Christ. Sorry for the confusion. Okay, so she did not physically pass away, but you lost her because you did not. I got to hear more about this. Papa Lance, I got to hear more about this. I'm gonna have to. I would love to invite you on live. We can talk, and I need to um, get your either Facebook, because that's how I get Taisha on this. I sent her a link through Facebook, or I can send you a link through email. But absolutely, Lance, I want to hear more about this. I think we all would love to hear more about this, and I think it'd be a benefit if you're willing to talk about it, I should say. Um, but yeah, but you can, as for today, you can put more comments in, and we can talk about some of that stuff as well. Talk about some of it as well. But I would love to have you on live with me, split screen, and just have you and just hear your story, because I think it's important. Because that was one of my concerns before I came out to my wife. Luckily, she was thinking the same thing, but that's certainly not the case for many of us. Melanated said, I left in 2018, and I've been more at peace. We were talking about that. Teo said, I started asking, why would God allow so much death and destruction to continue and do nothing? So the pandemic gave me time to seek. That is to seek more. That is very insightful, Teo. I posed that question to some Christians, and I'm sure many of you have too. Some of you probably have too. And I've gotten all kind of answers, but I've never got a sufficient answer, and we probably would never, because there isn't a sufficient answer to that. If the God of if the Abrahamic God is who they say he is, or who they want him to be, or who they proclaim that he is in the scriptures, there is no sufficient answer to what Teo just stated. So absolutely. Um, Fox was it Kemisai? I don't want to mispronounce it. Let me just say K Fox. I apologize for butchering it. But the fear that a loving God would torture his beloved creatures in hellfire is what keeps people from thinking. The madness of it. So the second reason that I have written down here is fear. And so, K Fox, what you're saying is that the fear that a loving God would torture his beloved creatures in hellfire is what keeps people from thinking. Absolutely. I certainly agree. And the question that I would ask them is, if you flip that around, if this is such a loving God, why would he create a hell to begin with? Knowing, because this is an all knowing God as well, knowing that some of his creation will end up in this God-forsaken place, right? So it's a double-edged sword. We know that that's the fear. And I'll be honest, I think I've told you guys many times here. One of the things that I had to get over initially was the fear of hell. But again, once I started in-depth research and reading about how we got hell, at least what we see as hell now, the fact that what we know as hell today does not exist in the Old Testament. Where we got it from, where it originated from, all of that, then I quickly came to the conclusion that this biblical hell was non-existent, did not exist, and does not exist. But that was something that I had to get over, and I know many other people who are embarking on this journey. That is one of the things that they too have to get over. And so that was always a good place to start, because that fear is deep. And so we fear some other things that we fear as to what's keeping us in Christianity is that we fear that even in our life as living, we fear that if we denounce Christianity or leave Christianity, that this God, this vengeful, jealous God will punish us, not in death, also in death, but as we exist today, like bad things will start happening to us. Like we'll get sick, or we'll lose a family member or whatever. And guess what? That happens to all of us. That has happened to the most devout people that I know. They've died, they've lost loved ones, they've gotten sick, they've been broke, they've been poor, they've been homeless, and they've been some of the most devout people, God loving people that I've ever met in my life. So that doesn't change anything. But there's also that, and then there's also yeah, God's gonna punish me, but there's also the fear that goes the other way, which is, well, now if I denounce Christianity, this God is no longer going to bless me. Um, and so you have that as well. So it's the fear of not being blessed, it's the fear of being punished, it's the fear of eternal damnation, all of that. But it's just fear. It's all wrapped up into fear. So it's the ignorance, and it's also the fear. Couple of more comments. Let's see. Teo said, we are being tortured daily. It's like a prison within a prison. Happiness here on this plane is temporary, but pain can last years. And I think one of the things with that, Teo, is I clearly all over the world, um, there is absolutely suffering. I think when you in this country, we tend to merge capitalists, and I'm saying this as a entrepreneur, we tend to merge capitalism and religion, and I think it creates a whole different level of suffering, especially in a country that is supposed to be the richest country in the world. Now, if you traveled, if you've been fortunate enough to travel, and my wife and I, we've traveled some places. I've been to quote unquote third world countries, where people seem to be a lot happier and had a whole lot less. But don't think that consumerism, capitalism, and religion It's not all connected, especially in this country. It is a connection. It is connected, and so severing, uh, separating them, and severing ourselves from religion, at least the way that it's practiced here in this country, can help with some of that pain and suffering. My wife and I, we're dealing with a lot of stuff going on, not necessarily bad stuff, but just things, stuff happening. And one thing my wife said to me the other day, she was like, now that we don't, acknowledge God or Jesus, uh, whatever problems we have, I really understand, realize that it's my job to fix those problems. And so I don't sit around and wait for this God to fix it for me. I go out and do the things that need to be done to fix those issues. And she said that was growth for her, and I absolutely, totally agree. Many times things happen and it's like, was God is gonna fix it, or I'm just gonna sit here and wait on God or whatever. No, when you freed yourself from this entrapment of Christianity and religion and this belief that this entity, outside entity, external entity is gonna fix your problems, you'll be surprised how much accountability you begin to take, and how you really get stuff done and fix and solve the problems that need to be solved. Um, Teo said 100%. Larry Smith, at Teo, I asked those same questions. Plus, the more I studied the Bible, the less believable it became to me. It just seemed like mythology. That's another reason why we are still attached to Christianity, because we don't read our Bible. We cherry pick. We go to our favorite scriptures that we've heard the pastors regurgitate so many times before, but we don't really take the time to read our Bible and study our Bibles. Um, there's a saying out there that is true. The best way to create an atheist is to have that person really read the Bible. Because if you read the Bible with an open and objective mind, there are so many things in there that makes absolutely no sense, that are absolutely impossible, that has never happened, we've never seen happen, has never happened before, that is inhumane, that is sad, that is atrocious behavior, all of that. And when you put all of that together, you're saying, wait a minute, this is what I'm worshiping, this is what I'm part of, this is what I'm believing in, this is what I base my whole life on. And so absolutely. Um, and it is mythology. Are there things in the Bible? Are there events, a few people, places that are real? Absolutely. But in every comic story, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, there are things in the comics there are places that are real. There are situations and things that happen that are real. But it's still a comic. It is still fiction, and so yeah, it is still mythology. If you read the Bible with an open mind and ask yourself, have I ever seen a snake talk? Have I ever seen a donkey fly? Have I ever seen a person live inside a well for 3 days? Have I ever seen a sea or river or ocean part? Have I ever? Is there any archaeological evidence that the entire world flooded at one time, and that all of these animals lived on an ark together without devouring each other, without killing each other, without, I mean, just so many. If you just take the Noah's Ark story by itself, there are a litany of questions and impossibilities that is absolutely impossible. You cannot have carnivores on a boat with omnivores, and the carnivores not eat the omnivores. It's impossible. The waste alone from that many animals, the fumes and the gases from the waste, the animal waste would kill every living thing on there. How do you get animals who are indigenous to cold spaces to the Middle East without them dying, and vice versa? So it's just a whole host of things. Um, Taisha's going to join us. I think she's trying to join us. Let me add her. There she is. Taisha is with us. Taisha, you can join in anytime you want to. Um,
Hey, thank you.
those of you who don't know, this is Taisha Essex. She is part of the reason why I'm here. She has helped me so much, but she also has her own YouTube channels full of so much information. So I encourage you to support her. Toward the end, we'll give you her information where you can find her. But she is part of this journey as well. She is part of this space as well. And so I'm going to let her say whatever she wants to say at this time.
Greetings, Brother Willie. Greetings, everyone. Sorry, I clicked off and then I went to go log into the studio. So I spent like the last 3 minutes looking for a picture. I realized I do not have any pictures of myself recently. I only have pictures of our baby girl. But yes, your topic tonight is amazing. It's like, okay, why are African Americans afraid to leave the faith? Afraid. And, many things come into play. And, we can go all the way back from the fear that's been beaten in us originally from, the enslaver. But then it's been our elders that's our elders that's been beaten into us and keeping up this tradition because when you ask someone like why do they continue with this and it's usually because of tradition. It's not well, we have this to show for it, we have that to show for it. And I've mentioned here on this channel within the past year or two that I've been visiting churches here in Georgia, and I'm like, there's nothing that I'm missing. I'll go because I'm either invited, and by those mean a lot to me. But I'm like, why are we here? Why do we just waste all this time? Like, there's nothing going on. The pastors, they go on a rant all about themselves and stupid nonsense. And now that it's 2024, it's like the black church is going to get ridiculous because these politicians are going to have the platform. So it's like, I'm so happy I left, but I have no desire to go back. And it's just a fear. We are fear mongered to go to church when our money isn't right. We're fear mongered to go to church when our relationship ain't right. We're fear mongered to go when our health isn't right. But this invisible entity, this sky daddy and his zombie son, ain't doing nothing for any of those situations. It's you that got yourself in it, and it's you and other people around you that's going to get you out. But for some reason, we just think we need to go when we're asked out in that rock bottom.
Yeah, the church needs us to be sick, unhealthy, sad, depressed, broke, because that's when we tend to go. That's when we want to become members, and they understand this. And so they have a vested interest in our collective downfall because it keeps the church full. And this is just not me talking. This is based on studies that are out there that will tell you the better off a person tend to be, the less likely they are to go to church. The only exception, and at that point, the only reason why most will still go to church is for the social aspect. But as far as believing and praying and needing this God figure, it decreases for most people when they become much well off and they're healthier and they're feeling better, they have better relationships and that kind of thing. Some more of the comments. Tail said, let's just be honest. Either way, nobody gets to stay here, whether you believe or not. Absolutely true. Tail again said exactly to Larry Smith. None of the characters in the Bible have ever been proven to exist. Um, Absolutely. What I would say to that is none of the major characters from the Bible, there is zero archaeological evidence for any of them. That will include even historians who believe that a Jesus existed. If you ask them, that belief is not based on archaeological evidence. And then they will also say, well, there could have been a physical to human Jesus who maybe did some wonderful things, but as far as the divinity, the divine Jesus, absolutely nothing. But Moses, Abraham, Isaac, none of those people existed. There's no archaeological evidence of any of those people. Any of the other ones, Mary, Joseph, zero, absolutely none. And so, um, yeah, that is very important, especially when you have these conversations with people who are questioning their faith, for them to know. Let's see. Teo said the scriptures that did it for me was Isaiah 45:7. How sinister. I'm trying to think which one is that. That's not the one with the bears, where the two bears killed the 42 kids. I'm trying to think. Is that? But let me know, Teo, which one is that? It is the K Fox said it is the need for man to control everybody. Says Heavenly Father, but never say Heavenly Mother. Yeah, it's all rooted in sexism, misogyny. When I have these discussions with people, when we talk about how we got religion, I say in my research and my studies, it started with us trying to figure out answers to things that we didn't have answers to. Human nature has a problem with not knowing something. And so going all the way back to the first time that we did have a rationale understood how we got lightning or rain or where earthquakes came from, we created an exterior entity or force to explain all of these things, i.e. gods. And so we even named some of our gods after rain and thunder, some of these other natural phenomenons. But once we realized that they were natural phenomenons, those gods went by the wayside. And so the gods that we have now are just standing in place of positions that we don't have an answer to. And as we continue to evolve as human beings, as a humanity, as a species, those gods, including the Abrahamic God, will at some point go by the wayside. And I'm not telling you this out of emotion or subjectivity. I'm telling you this out of research as well. Part of what I do in my research is that we gauge and we document and we look at the growth of individuals who are A, leaving the church, B, leaving religion, C, becoming more secular. And the word religion, that is the largest growing religious quote unquote group out there. Those who are what we call nones, Nones, which is what my research is based on. Those are people who are not affiliated with any denomination or church, and check a survey box that says non-affiliated. But within that group, you also have individuals who are more secular, who are atheists and agnostics. And to be fair, there are people in that group who still say, I believe in God or I'm still a Christian. But one of the things that I argue in my research is that some of those people in that group, that non-group, will eventually become secular, will eventually become agnostic, will eventually become atheist. And so the larger that group becomes, the more people will come out of that group that will become agnostic, atheists, or as I said before, God or religion would be completely irrelevant to them and have no bearing on their life whatsoever. And so that's important. Let's say Larry said the story of Noah's Ark did it for me. Yeah, that's just way too many things in that story that you can ask questions for that no Christian, I don't care how learned, how educated that person is, there is no Christian, I don't care how many PhDs they may have, that can explain Noah's Ark to where it makes logical sense or rational sense. Zero, absolutely, because there is nothing in that story that makes rational sense. Noah being 900 years old or 600 or whenever, 500 years old when he started building it, he lived to be 900 years. All of the animals, all that kind of stuff. It rained 40 days and 40 nights, and we have no archaeological evidence of that happening around the world. Absolutely, there is no way that they can prove that. That they can, with a straight face, defend that. Melanated said, I sent you a friend request on Facebook. Okay, I will check it out. Thank you. Texas Goddess said, please do a live and where hell came from. I will do that. I will do that. I will absolutely do that one day. Absolutely. Theo said, yes. And why would a powerful being allow a war to start in a so-called sacred place and then just send his enemy here with us? What did we do to end up here in the first place? Yeah, um, if you, those of us who remember um, the Roadrunner cartoon, Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, right? Um, this God and the devil relationship is very similar to the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote and the writers, right? Um, if Wile E. Coyote died, it would be no story. If Wile E. Coyote ever caught the Roadrunner, it'd be the end of the story, right? So if God, if God killed the devil, which would make perfect sense, right? Because supposedly he's the one that's causing all of us to act a certain way and all of the mischief and everything that's going on earth. Uh, Actually, if you read the Bible, it's really God is causing that. But I, I digress. uh, so the question you asked is, well, if this is the devil, why won't God just kill the devil? But if he kills the devil, then the show is over. So we have to remember that as well. So absolutely, Till. Thank you. Larry said, I had no peace of mind when I was a believer. Fear nearly consumed me. That is an excellent point, Larry. When we are engrossed in this religion, in this faith, we are living. Uh, uh, I always say we're living in fear, and we're living from one quote unquote miracle to the next one, right? I can't get my bills paid. Oh my God. At the last minute, mysteriously, a $200 check was in my mailbox. And then you're back to wondering how you're going to pay your bills for next month. If you get sick, all kind of stuff. So yeah, absolutely. It's not a peace of mind. I have much more peace of mind where I am now than I ever did when I was a Christian. Because again, I always was worried about, well, what am I doing wrong? If I'm doing this, is God gonna punish me for this? Did I do enough of this? Did I do this the right way? Is he gonna punish me? Why am I getting sick? Is God mad at me? Did I do something wrong? So you're in a constant state of fear and questions and wondering, and what did I do? You wonder, my mom's sick, my sister's sick. What's going on? Did we all do something wrong? Is God forsaking us? What's going on? Is he testing us? Why would he be testing us if he already know the outcome of everything? That never set right with me. I never understood that. Why is he testing you when he knows the outcome of everything? Why are you putting us through this unnecessary stress, which is from a physiological standpoint, it is bad for our bodies. Stress is bad for our bodies. Stress is bad for our bodies. And there are so many Christians who are so stressed, not because I should say, in addition to the normal things that are happening to them, the stress is compounded because of their relationship with this abusive father figure. So don't mistake it. It isn't. We have an abusive. When I say we, I speak of African Americans as the collective. We have an abusive relationship with this God, going all the way back, even before slavery, but certainly slavery. We have an abusive relationship with this father, or what we call our father, this God, and we just won't acknowledge it. Let's see where we at. K Fox said, "Hell is relentless, unforgiving, and eternal. Yet we are told to forgive everyone." Another excellent point. Because sending me to hell is not God forgiving us, right? But yet we're told to forgive. I don't forgive. Teo said, "I was given so much in tithes and offering. I had very little for myself. I was in poverty, and still I trusted God to make a way. He never showed." So Teo, you get to a point that for me, I have to really fight hard. My wife has been working with me about this, but um, two things. First of all, I have countless stories about tithing and the negative consequences of tithing. Um, but one of the things I watched my mother for all of her life until she passed away at 67. So all of her life that I was with her. So I would have been 48 when she died. Yeah, 48 when she died. So for 48 years, nearly, I watched my mother give pay tithes every chance that she could. I watched, uh, grew up Section 8, project public housing. After I became an adult, my mother told me that she had never made more than $12,000 in a year. We spent uh, months and even a year or two with no heat in our home. Uh, Food was scarce. I mean, you name it. This is how I grew up. And but my mother always tried to pay tithes. And one day, after I became an adult, I remember having a conversation with her because my sister and I, and my wife at the time, and my wife now, we were supplementing her income, helping her to pay her bills and make sure she had everything taken care of. And I remember one time asking her, um, "We just gave you money for the light bill or something. Why are you taking part of that money to the church?" And she, went into this thing about that I got to pay tithes. God, I said, well, first of all, if this, I didn't say this God exists because at the time I wasn't. I was really questioning, but I hadn't came out to her. I hadn't come out to her yet. But I said, God understands if you can't pay tithes, if you need your money to pay your bills. Um, but for all these years, and not just her, I watched many people in my community in Birmingham, Alabama. I watched many, many, many people do this, and their social economic situation never changed, never got better. As a matter of fact, it got worse. My mother spent most of her adult life, well, she spent all of her adult life flat broke. I'm not talking about nothing, nothing, never having money for any. I mean, lights off. We come home from school, lights would be off, the air would be off, the heat would be off, cable, whatever. But she spent most of her adult life sick, very sickly, as well. And it just burns me that she did this and still was the most devout and the most faithful Christian that I had ever met. To the point where um, she said some really harsh things about me, her firstborn, who she loved dearly. She said some really harsh things about me and my wife when we announced that we were no longer believers. And so this is what this faith and this religion does to you. Um, and so it's always personal to me. But yeah, I got stories about tithing and the amount of money that we tithe, especially when we first started our business was doing really, really well. And I'll tell the story at some point. But um, we wised up after some point, and we stopped. Even before we left the church, we stopped giving at least what we were giving. But yeah, that's so I'm kind of sort of sore spot for me. Um, K Fox said, "How many people take a collection of random writings of men, slap it together, and call it the Word of God? The madness of it all. If we did that, if all of us on here today wrote a book, quote unquote, a book, and slapped it together and called it a Bible, the Bible, and went around professing that it was the Word of God and that everyone should abide by it, and there was laws and rules in this book that we all should abide by. At some point, we all would probably be locked up in an institution because they would think that we're crazy. But yet, we take the writings, so-called writings of people from 2,000 years ago, illiterate people from 2,000 years ago, 40 to 50 people who we don't have a clue who they are, where they were, what they were on, what was going on in their world, what was going on in their life, slap together this information, this book, and call it a Bible, and we live our life according to that. All of the norms and the laws and the rules and the culture of things that were happening back then is really what these people wrote about. But yet, 2,000 years later, we're conducting our lives by this stuff without questioning it. Makes no sense. I'm with you, K Fox. Teo said exactly. If any of it happened then, it would be going on today. If any of it happened then, it would be going on today. Yeah, Larry said at Teo, when the church needs money, ask the members for it. But when the members need money, ask God for it. Larry, I got another story. I got another story. Well, you've been to as many churches as I've been to, and part of as many denominations as I've been to, and as old as I am, you have plenty of stories about the church. And and these stories are no different than I know what other people have experienced. But I also make it clear to people that because you get these believers who say, "Well, you left church because the church hurt." I did not leave. You may leave a particular church body because someone in the church hurt you or something happened in the church, but you don't denounce the faith. You don't stop believing in a God or a deity because of church hurt. I stopped believing and I denounced Christianity because through reading and research and applying rational thought and analytical thinking, I came to the conclusion that none of this stuff was real. That's why I left. It had nothing to do with church hurt. Now, what church hurt can do for some is start you on this journey. It can start you to ask questions because you will say, wait a minute, I thought that this was supposed to be A, B, and C, but yet it's C, D, and E, right? Or it's something entirely different. Well, let me do a little bit more research. Let me start peeling back the layers of the onions. And once you start doing that, if that leads you to do more reading, more research, asking more questions, then it is at that point that some people will start to denounce the faith and leave the church. So absolutely. Teo said, Larry, absolutely true. You said so true. Teo said, hi, Taisha. She's gone. She might be still in the chat. Teo Brown said, it's all regurgitation information. Absolutely. It's Christian talking points. It's like you said, regurgitating everything. Yeah, I certainly appreciate all the comments. This is probably the most comments we've had in a long time. So this must be a topic that really touched the nerve, and I certainly appreciate that. And as always, I will get comments later on of people who were afraid to come on here and debate us or say or give a counter to the things that we're saying. But I'll get the comments later on, and I'll go back and read those comments, and I'll respond to each and every last one of them, good or bad, indifferent, whatever. I respond to all of them. Teo said, yet. Let me go back. I think, okay, Papa Lance said, what did we? Oh, Phoenix Rising, what's going on? Glad to have you. Glad to have you with us. Papa Lance said, the reason I was afraid, let's see, to leave. The reason why I was afraid to leave the church was I was afraid to lose family and friends, especially my marriage. I absolutely understand. Thankfully, I did not lose my marriage. Unfortunately, when I denounced in 2015, it took me about a year to tell my mother. So that was 2016. I live in Atlanta and she lives in Birmingham. And I told her that we would have a deep discussion about this when I came home for the holidays. I think I went home for the holidays. We did not have that discussion. And 6 months later, she had passed away. So she died probably disappointed at a minimum in my decisions to leave the church. So I don't regret that because it's a decision I had to make for my life. It's not my fault that she had a problem with me making an adult decision about my life. As much as I loved her and revered her, it is what it is. But I do regret that we never had opportunity to have that discussion. So in a sense, I probably lost her the last 2 years, the last year of my life. I have lost friends. My sister and I are we're still close. We will always be close. She's a devout believer. And she makes jokes every so often. Her and my niece. My niece is grown. My niece is 25. But we are still very close. She knows where I stand on religion. My nephew, who is 32 or 33, he is. I think he's on a journey. He's asking me questions. We've talked about this. But he was brought up in the church. He spent a lot of time with his grandmother, my mother, when he was a kid, going to church all the time. So yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that is part of it. But we have to be true to ourselves. I'd rather lose quote unquote friends and even family as opposed to continue to live the lie that I was living, not being authentic to who I was and and who I am. So I am much, much, much happier. But again, it's easier for me to say that because I still have my wife and we both are on the same accord, sort of. But even for those who I know people who are, one spouse is a non-believer, one spouse is still a believer, and they make it work. They live in the same household together. They either don't have these conversations or they figure out a way around it. So Papa Lance, we're going to have you on live one day, and I want to hear if you let me know if you're up to or whenever you're up to talking about it. I think it'll be a benefit because I think a lot of us out here are wrestling with that same issue. That his where I am, and my spirituality, my lack of belief or whatever, and my significant other, my spouse, my significant other, or someone really really close to me is still over here. And so, what happens when I come out of the closet? Well, what happens when I let that person know my new position on that topic. What happened? So yeah, absolutely. Uh, Teo said, and the sad part is that women run to the church the fastest. Oh, the church prey on women, especially single mothers with kids, because they tend to have those, they tend to have things in their, they tend to have more issues in their life. You're raising a child by yourself. You got the job, pressures of the job. More so than often, you're having issues with the child's father. You're lonely, but you want to have someone. And so the church provides you the so-called answer. And so we're searching, we're looking. That's all of us, but it's particularly for women and women with kids, single mothers. They go to church, and the church knows this. Did any of you have been to church? And I've been in a while, but I still know this to be a fact. Especially our churches are probably 65% women and kids. Absolutely. And so that's the backbone of the church. And so when more of our women wake up, as I call it, or at least start to question, then the church is really going to be in trouble. Really going to be in trouble. Texas Goddess says, Papa, how are you now with the dissolution of your marriage? That was from Texas Goddess, Papa. K Fox said, I'm just glad you two are challenging the nonsense because it needs to be challenged. We make up all kinds of excuses to keep walking with crutches. So perfectly said, K Fox. We appreciate that, Taisha and I. There are others out there in this space. There are other people that look like us in this space. When you get into this space, you tend to see and hear the non-melanated people the most. They're the loudest. They have the biggest platforms. They have the most financial support. And quite frankly, they've been doing this a whole lot longer. Um, we are always, we've always had what we would call free thinkers. There's a book by a gentleman, a professor named Christopher Cameron called African American Free Thinkers, and it just really traces the history of so-called African American free thinkers. That was the term or the title that was given. But under that banner, you get everyone from. He talks about all these people. You get everyone from Frederick Douglass, who was a Christian and minister, but he challenged the way that they practiced religion back then, all the way to Zora Neale Hurston, who was for the most part an atheist, and everybody in between, members of the Black Panther Party, A. Philip Randolph, Charles Baldwin, you name it. There's a number of people that you may or may not know who were at a minimum what we would call free thinkers, but who did not follow the traditional religious path, if any religious path at all. And so we've always had those people, but we have not always been outspoken in numbers like we're starting to be now. And so non-melanated people tend to dominate the space, but we are coming, we're growing, we're out there, and there's many of us who are out there doing it. So certainly appreciate that. Certainly appreciate that, K Fox. Papa said at Texas to Texas Goddess, a brother is good now. I have to be honest, though, it was the worst thing I ever had to endure. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. I was married for over 25 plus years, divorced, it was a year and a half. Wow, 25 years. Wow. Oh, that hurts. I've been married. My anniversary is next month, and we would be married 19 years next month. So 25 is a long time, brother. We wish you the best and getting over it, continuing your journey of getting over it. Um, so yeah, absolutely. Teo said, God says that he created good and evil. So what is he? Oh, that's Isaiah. Yeah. I think I mentioned it earlier. In reality, God is actually the evil one too, because he's controlling and doing all of it. The so-called good and the so-called evil, according to the Bible. Um, Teo said, Papa Lance, you made it through a rough time. Honors to you, absolutely. K Fox said, I'm gonna read these and then we are already past our time, right? But I certainly appreciate it. I'm gonna read the rest of these and then we'll be out. But I want to do this because I appreciate all of you making the comments. K Fox said, why does God only have one word that he supposedly wrote thousands of years ago with no updates, as if he can't drop us a new word in 2024? Absolutely. Or maybe he could have made that word back then. He could have had the foresight or the forethought or whatever, knowing what we will be going through now and made it applicable to today. because he's God. He can do anything, right? Papa said, yes, I did too. Let her tell it. God separated us in her favor. Wow. That's what she said? Wow. Wow. Oh, that hurt. Okay. Phoenix Rising said 100%. Taylor said the numbers would be off the charts right now in this live if we were still closed-minded by the Bible. If we were not, I think we say if we were not closed-minded in the Bible. Yeah. It's coming. It's coming. I might not live to see it, but as I taught a class last year at Georgia State, I had a freshman class, well, I think it was freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, undergrads, in an intro to religion class. And when I tell you that I was both shocked and pleasantly surprised at so many students who literally had no clue of who Abraham was, who Moses was, who had very little reference about God and Jesus. I mean, seriously, this is in the South, and I was shocked. Um, so there are a generation of young people who are coming up that are not bound by religion, certainly not bound by Christianity. Certainly there are those out there that are, but there is a larger percentage of those individuals with that group, and it's going to continue with the following as the generations that to follow. So it's happening. Larry Smith said, I'm sorry you had to go through that. Papa Lance was becoming such a zealot. I think my family was secretly relieved when I backed away from it. I called it my batshit crazy phase. Papa Lance said, my ex was a PK. Yeah, so you already know how her mind works. Now she done convinced my youngest daughter to get baptized recently. Oh. Well, maybe she'll come out of it that your daughter wise up to it at some point. Taisha say, I'm back in the chat. My boss lady wants my full attention. That's your baby, right? Yeah, Taisha recently had a baby, so she's taking care of her baby as well. So, but we appreciate having her back. Melanated said Romans 13 through 1 through 2 should be enough to wake our people up as a whole. Yeah, go read Romans 13, first and second chapters. Teo said, right, I get it. Good analogy about Road Runner and Coyote. Okay, great. Appreciate that. K Fox said, God refuses to kill the devil. In fact, he cuts deals with him like he did with Job. Man, don't get me started on the Job story. Job story. God and the devil put a wager on Job's life for their entertainment, the madness of it all. Perfect. You summed up perfect. I tell people all the time, I say the Job story is basically God making a bet with the devil. That's it. But while this man and his family and his kids suffered, his kids died, losing his kids and his cattle, everything, and him physically suffering, this was a joke. This was a bet between God and the devil. And then you get the Christians who say, well, it was replaced. He got more than he had before. I said, let me tell you something. I said, I don't know about you. I said, I have one sister and a niece and a nephew, and they can't be replaced. If they died and God said, well, here's a new sister and a new niece and a new nephew, that's not the same. We're not furniture. We're not replaceable. We're not pieces of furniture you could just replace. I mean, that's crazy. But Christians would do mental gymnastics to make all of this shit make sense. It's nonsense, a lot of it. So yeah, y'all get me fired up now. When I get to the Job story, I get fired up. K Fox, they work together like twins. They are twins. Phoenix Rising said, Taisha, you spoke, dear, as a rose. You spoke well. That's what she was saying. Taisha, this is from Phoenix Rise. Teo said, Papa Lance, unfortunately, they have to give an account for their God. Yes, they have to. They had to keep the numbers up, almost like the Jehovah Witnesses that be out there looking for recruits, as I call it. K Fox said, everyone I know came from a woman, but the Bible doesn't even want to give women credit. It says a woman comes from man's rib, the madness of it all. Again, something else that we've never seen happen that is biologically impossible, that has never happened. So why would we believe this? Naomi Ubuntu, peace and power. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Glad to have you. Teo said the faith will completely destroy any and everything. It will, but we're starting to fight back. We're starting to wise up, and so I'm happy to see that. Teo said K Fox 100. Teo also said K Fox, how did I come from a rib or turn around and gave birth to many children? Make it make sense. Absolutely. At 100%, absolutely. So when you get into the, and you hear those of you who know about the story of Lilith, if you don't, do yourself a favor and read about Lilith, who was supposed to be the first wife of Adam, but because she was independent and was on equal, wanted to be on equal footing with Adam, uh, she all of a sudden became a demonic witch, according to biblical talk or whatever. So yeah, absolutely. Papa Lance, life is so much better without religion or church. Now I do miss my family though. That's yeah, you will miss some family and friends who still go to church and you don't go. That might be the only time that we had opportunity to see them. One of the questions that I tried to answer in my research is when the church is no longer the center of our community, what happens to the social aspect? What do we do as a community, as a collective, to get the social aspect that the church did give us? And so those are some of the things that we do wrestle with, those of us who are outside of the church now, and those of us who are doing the research and the writings. Those are questions that we do that we do delve into. Um, Papa Len said, of course, my IG is my YT time. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. K Fox said at Teo, the real though. Yep. Papa Lance, you said a mouthful. Absolutely. Texas Goddess. Gotta pop off. Everyone have a great rest of the day. Thank you for joining us. Taisha said, this is to me, Willie. You can't use last year's textbooks for the classes, but it's okay to use the same Bible written centuries ago. Absolutely, right? Right. We have to get new textbooks every year. Even the textbooks they use from K through 12 have to be changed out or updated every so often. But yet, this Bible, which is 2,000 years old, at a minimum can't be updated, let alone get a new one. Appreciate that, Taisha. Well, absolutely. Um, Papa Lance said, take care, Texas. Great live talk. Thank you again from Teo. And the last comment from K Fox, we appreciate it. The church is God's house, right? God has thousands of houses that he doesn't need. Do you think he could give some of those houses to some of the millions of homeless people? And on that note, that is the perfect way to end this. Thank you all. Appreciate you all. I will be back in 2 weeks with a new topic and a different subject. But I'm so happy and thankful that you all joined us today with the comments. Tell a friend. Check out Taisha Essig. All of her podcasts. Her channels are begin with her name, Tiesex, Tiesesex. She has some tremendous work. It's not all about religion. It's about things that you can do and need every day. It's about personal safety, some of her stuff. So just a wealth of information and knowledge. So please support this wonderful sister. Appreciate it. Support my channel. Tell a friend about both of us and support our channels. And we certainly appreciate that. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Take care and stay safe.